Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, 7 days into the war, President Trump demands Iran's unconditional surrender. The new images tonight, airstrikes intensifying across Iran. An Iranian drone carrier struck at sea, consumed by flames. The U.S. releasing video showing a recent strike on an Iranian military base in Shiraz. Sources telling ABC News Russia is providing intelligence to help Iran target U.S. forces. And here in the U.S., President Trump increasing pressure on Iran. The White House pressed on what that unconditional surrender would look like.
What does the president mean when he calls for unconditional surrender? Is he saying that the regime has to fully relinquish control?
The president also demanding he approve new leadership favorable to the U.S. and its allies. Job concern. Tonight, the American economy showing signs of struggle. The Dow plunging. And a dismal jobs report, all with gas now at its highest price in a year and a half. The war also leading to concerns about higher airfares. And tonight, thousands gathering for a final farewell to civil rights icon, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
We are living in a time when it can be hard to hope.
Former Presidents Obama, Biden, and Clinton all paying tribute. The deadly tornado touching down in Oklahoma, a mother and daughter found dead in their car. Severe storms from Texas to New York this weekend. It's never too early to file those taxes. What you need to know just about a month until the deadline. And heading across the pond, the new phone snatching epidemic in London.
Last year, we disrupted a gang that had exported, we think, about 40,000 phones to China.
And it's time to spring forward, losing that extra hour of sleep. But you'll be happy to hear just how late the sun will start setting, starting Sunday night.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Perche in for Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. And we begin tonight, 7 days into the war with Iran and the alarming new development. Sources tell ABC News that Russia is providing Iran with intelligence on U.S. targets. Tonight, U.S. Central Command released video showing an airstrike on an Iranian drone carrier out at sea, smoke and flames billowing from the vessel. And today, many more explosions were reported. Israel claimed more than 400 targets were struck across Iran, including ballistic missile launchers. The Israeli military also ramped up attacks on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, more than 300,000 people now forced to evacuate. Iran still with hundreds of missile launchers active. Take a look at this large fire burning at a Kuwait air base used by the U.S. military. The U.S. embassy in Kuwait is now closed. And new video tonight shows the moment a U.S. F-15 was mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti defenses. One of 3 American fighter jets lost to friendly fire. Tonight, a White House official confirmed President Trump will attend the dignified transfer of 6 Army reservists killed in Kuwait when they arrive at Dover Air Force Base tomorrow. ABC Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pannell leads us off from the region once again tonight.
Tonight, President Trump demanding Iran's unconditional surrender as the US and Israel intensify attacks. And in an alarming new development, sources telling ABC News the US believes Russia has been providing Iran with the locations of American troops in the region, including aircraft and ships. Just today, Iranian missile debris igniting this fire at a military base in Kuwait, where US troops are stationed. No injuries reported. The White House trying to downplay the impact of Russian interference.
It clearly is not making a difference with respect to the military operations in Iran because we are completely decimating them.
But in another sign of potential escalation, tonight 3 US officials telling ABC News the Army abruptly cancelling a major training exercise for a unit of the 82nd Airborne Division that oversees deployments. That move fueling speculation the 82nd Airborne, the Pentagon's premier ground combat unit, may be getting ready to deploy to the Middle East if needed. But officials stress there are no orders to deploy right now. Iranian officials warning thousands of lives would be lost if the US sending ground troops. Tonight, with the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, now moving into the Red Sea, the Pentagon saying the US has struck more than 3,000 targets in Iran. Israel releasing dramatic new video. 50 fighter jets striking the late Ayatollah Khamenei's underground bunker complex in Tehran. Israel saying senior Iranian officials were still using it, but no word on the fate of those inside. And Israel expanding strikes deeper into Lebanon, relentlessly bombing Beirut in an area known to be a stronghold of the Iranian proxy group Hezbollah. Our Matt Rivers on the scene.
There's another missile coming in right now. You can hear that explosion there. That was the second strike. There was one just before that, and that comes after a series of strikes all day long. And as we move into the night, it could be a very long night for the people down there.
Long lines as hundreds of thousands race to escape, warned to evacuate their homes by Israel. And tonight, new details of that horrific strike on a girls' school in southern Iran on the first day of the war. Iran saying 168 people were killed. A child's textbook covered in blood in the aftermath. Sources say that while the US investigation into the incident remains ongoing, officials believe it's possible American forces are responsible for the attack because they were conducting strikes in the vicinity of the school at the time of the incident. Retired Master Sergeant Wes Bryant, who works in the Pentagon office that assesses civilian casualties, telling ABC News he believes the building was targeted.
I could tell immediately that this compound was deliberately targeted. I know since we've seen at least 7 different target points that were individually targeted by munitions within this compound, very clearly.
Israel says its forces weren't operating in the area. But 6 days since the attack, the US still looking into it, saying it would never deliberately target civilians.
We, of course, never target civilian targets, but we're taking a look and investigating that.
And for the first time tonight, we're seeing the moment a Kuwaiti warplane shot down an American F-15 fighter jet in video posted to TikTok. Flames shooting out of that US jet as it spiraled to the ground. One of 3 F-15s shot down the same day by friendly fire. Both pilots ejecting safely.
Thank you for helping us.
And tonight, relief for some Americans still stuck in the region. The US chartering a New England Patriots plane carrying hundreds of Americans home. Overall, at least 24,000 US citizens have left the Middle East since the war erupted.
And Ian joins me now. And Ian, the president posted today that he would not make any deals with Iran.
Yeah, originally we'd had this post from the Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, saying that third countries were trying to get the two sides together, but the president then taking to Truth Social, essentially saying there would be no negotiations, demanding an unconditional surrender. And I think that's something that the Iranian regime, certainly in its current form, is unlikely to agree to. And in the meantime, we've now got this astonishing story, these growing concerns about how much intelligence Russia is giving Iran to target American forces. Pretty astonishing. Alex?
Astonishing indeed. Ian, panel for us. Thank you. And here in the U.S., President Trump has insisted that there is no time limit for this war. He also met today with defense contractors about boosting weapons production. ABC's Mary Bruce is at the White House with more.
Amid growing questions over whether the U.S. has enough missile interceptors to protect American interests and at least 6 other allies in the region from a barrage of Iranian attacks. Tonight, President Trump meeting with the nation's top defense contractors, urging them to boost production. The president has given no clear timetable for how long the war will last, but now says the end will require Iran's, quote, unconditional surrender. What does the president mean when he calls for unconditional surrender? Is he saying that the regime has to fully relinquish control?
What the president means is that when he, as commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, determines that Iran no longer poses a threat to the United States of America and the goals of Operation Epic Fury has been fully realized, then Iran will essentially be in a place of unconditional surrender.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying it doesn't much matter whether Iran actually says it surrenders or not. Tonight, the president telling Axios unconditional surrender could be that the Iranians announce it, but it could also be when they can't fight any longer because they don't have anyone or anything to fight with. The president says he will have to approve Iran's next leader, but he hasn't said how that would happen. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has made this promise.
No nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise.
Tonight, Trump pledging the U.S. and allies will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before, adding, make Iran great again. the White House posting hype videos on their official X account, interspersing images of deadly American attacks with cartoons.
You want to see me do it again?
Action movie clips, and video games. Tonight, Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth, who received a Purple Heart after losing both her legs in Iraq, posting, "War is not a video game. 6 Americans are dead and thousands more are at needless risk because of your illegal, unjustified war."
And Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. And Mary, we understand that President Trump is attending the dignified transfer of those Americans killed in the war.
Yeah, Alex, tomorrow, President Trump will attend the dignified transfers of the 6 Americans who have been killed so far in this war. Now, we asked the White House if the president has spoken to their families yet, and we're told he plans to tomorrow. Alex.
All right, Mary Bruce for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for more on President Trump's meeting with the defense contractors and the U.S. military's munitions stockpile, we're joined now by Kelly Grieco, a senior fellow at the Stimson Center. Kelly, thank you so much for your time today. And I want to start because President Trump posted on his social media platform about that meeting saying that the companies he met with agreed to quadruple production of the exquisite class weaponry. And that expansion began 3 months ago. And that they have an unlimited supply of medium and upper medium grade munitions, but increased orders for those as well. So what do you make of his recap of that meeting and the impact that it could have on this war, if any?
Yes. I have to be honest and just say that I don't have much of a reaction in the sense that it's not much of an announcement. Essentially, he's telling what the White House already announced before, the Pentagon had already announced before, a series of agreements, months ago, to expand, the production of things like PAC-3 MSEs and THAAD interceptors. There doesn't seem to be really anything new here, and the president's comments around the medium range kind of things that we have in larger stockpiles. I'll just note that it is true we have really deep magazines there. They're of course not unlimited, but there's nothing really new here in the president's announcement.
Yeah. Well, and we mentioned how questions have come up about how long the U.S. and its allies' stockpiles can last. The White House and others have said that the U.S. has enough munitions for this war. But based on how this conflict has played out so far, what's your read on how long the U.S. can sustain this war at this current pace?
Yeah, so I think there's really 2 variables right now that will determine that. The first one is really, we've seen that the ballistic missile threat has decreased in recent days. The numbers have dropped to the single digits, and the number of attacks with ballistic missiles against Gulf states, which suggests probably that U.S. and Israel have destroyed a number of the launchers. It's possible that Iran is conserving those missiles, but it seems like we've degraded the capabilities. Where the numbers are really holding steady is with these Shahed drones. And so unless the United States and Gulf states are able to find cheaper, more sustainable alternatives to deal with sort of the potential tens of thousands of these Shahed drones, we'll start to see some of the same interceptor challenges around these Shahed drones. And then the other variable here is also the U.S. ability to expand what right now it's calling limited air superiority. We have limited air superiority over southwest Iran, but we don't have it, in the eastern part of Iran. And so right now we're still relying quite a bit on these longer range munitions, the ones that we have the biggest stockpile challenges with. And so if we're able to gain greater levels of air control, we might be able to start using some of these shorter range things that we have in larger numbers. But again, these are unknowns when this is going to happen.
Well, and Kelly, when it comes to producing more weapons for the U.S., how much time would that process actually require?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we've been talking about for years now, in part because of Ukraine's challenges in needing, really vital weapons and munitions that we haven't been able at times to provide in the numbers that might be required. The issue here is that it's not a problem that's easily solved just simply by throwing money at it. So even if the United States were to say to defense contractors today, here, billions of dollars you can have, just make these really quickly. There are a number of bottlenecks in the process. One is that many of these are sophisticated munitions and therefore require really skilled labor. And so you'd have to expand the workforce, and that takes time. And then the other part of it is that even if you order a missile from a particular, say, defense company, that defense company doesn't make all of the components and subcomponents for that missile. And so sometimes we find in that there's a supplier, a sub-supplier, a very specific part of one of these systems that is not able to surge production sufficiently, and that holds up the whole process. So there are a number of things here that prevent this from happening as fast as we might want. But it's certainly something we need to work on, and it can help to replenish what we've used in the years ahead. But it's not going to solve the problem, say, next week or even next month.
All right, Kelly Grieco for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the U.S. economy is showing many more signs of struggle with the war with Iran drags on. And stocks today took a hit after a weak jobs report and the skyrocketing price of oil. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has more.
Alex, we are seeing a record-breaking surge in the price of oil as the war in Iran chokes off global supply. Oil prices are up 35% in the biggest weekly price increase ever. A barrel of oil is now above $90, and some analysts warn it could soon top $100. Americans are seeing these price spikes at the pump every day. The national average for a gallon of gas stands at $3.39. That's up more than 40 cents in the last week. And tonight there is another big warning sign for the economy. The new jobs report shows that the U.S. lost 92,000 jobs last month, and the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.4%. Economists were expecting a boost in hiring. This signals the job market is heading in the wrong direction. Alex.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you. And for more analysis on the latest jobs report, I want to turn to Diane Swank. She is the chief economist at KPMG. Diane, thank you so much for your time today. And I wanted to ask, how unexpected were the results of the jobs report this morning?
Well, it certainly was a disappointment. We would have preferred to see a much better jobs picture, but that didn't happen. That said, the revisions to the last 2 months were expected, and they were to the downside. And so we've been in this sort of low hire, low fire environment for some time now. And last year, all of the job creation that we saw was due to just gains in one sector, that was healthcare and social assistance. Now, that sector took a hit in the month of February because there was a strike in California and Hawaii in a major health group that took out 27,000 workers, and there were some spillover effects as well. But when you only have one-legged stool that you're standing on and you remove it, obviously you fall through the ice.
Well, and you mentioned those healthcare strikes being responsible for a portion of the losses, but now that they're over, how will jobs numbers look for next month?
I think we're still going to see very weak numbers. The good news is, and it's not really good news, it's that the labor market is in this very strange place. You don't need to generate many jobs to hold the unemployment rate steady or even take it down a bit. So if we've got something like 50 or 60,000 jobs next month, we actually could see the unemployment rate tick down a bit. We only need negative 20,000 to positive 40,000 right now, given curbs on immigration, aging demographics, and the shrinking labor force. We've actually seen the supply of workers fall. That is a very different kind of situation than we've ever seen. Last year, we had what I would call a jobless boom. We really created almost no jobs at all. We've created as many as we usually would create in a month in the entire year, and there likely will be more downward revisions to that. That is just a very different environment at the same time that inflation was accelerating prior to the pickup in oil prices.
Well, and I'm also curious because there's been a lot of discussion about the role that AI is playing in these numbers. What do you think? How do you think that factors into what we saw with this report?
Well, this report, I think in general, we've seen the tech sector itself has been shedding jobs ever since we saw ChatGPT first announced in the fall of 2022. Part of that's because coders actually are much more efficient with AI. But another reason for it is because we actually need a lot of cash to build data centers. And many of the tech behemoths are shedding workers in order to preserve cash and actually get to a better situation so they can afford more of these data centers. It's very, very expensive to build data centers.
Well, and I'm curious, were there any silver linings from this jobs report?
The only silver lining in it was that we actually saw what's called the U6. That's a more holistic measure of unemployment, and it includes those who have to take part-time jobs instead of full-time because they couldn't find full-time work, and marginalized workers. That unemployment rate fell from a rate of 8.1% in the month of January to 7.9% in the month of February. So that was a little bit of good news, but that's about it.
Okay, Diane Swank for us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And tonight, nearly 70 million Americans are under a severe weather threat. Possible tornadoes, heavy downpours, damaging winds, and large hail are moving east overnight. And the threat comes after 7 reported tornadoes impacted parts of Texas and Oklahoma. A mother and daughter were killed in Major County, Oklahoma, after severe weather swept through the area. WABC Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg has the latest.
Oh, Menard's roof just blew off.
Tonight, dangerous storms targeting the heartland for the 3rd night in a row. Lindsay Whitaker capturing this tornado, ripping up buildings in Three Rivers, Michigan.
We need to go because the storage shed just blew off.
Debris swirling outside this cell phone store.
Oh my God.
Homes torn apart, debris and wires littering neighborhoods. Overnight, northwest of Oklahoma City, first responders spotting this giant funnel lit up by lightning. Daylight revealing deadly destruction. Authorities say 2 people were inside this vehicle when it was hit by a tornado near Fairview, Oklahoma. Tragically, mother and daughter Jody and Lexi Owens did not survive. The storm's set to continue into tonight.
And Lee Goldberg joins us now. And Lee, it's an active week as severe weather continues into the weekend. What are you watching for?
So a larger scale severe weather outbreak tonight. You know, last night it was just a few states, and now we're up to over a dozen states here with all types of alerts. In fact, tornado watches out for 6 states, and we've had active tornado warnings in Oklahoma, and even up to southern Michigan. We have severe thunderstorm watches into the evening hours as well. But these storms are going from Dallas, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Des Moines. There's also a wintry edge to this coming out of the Rockies. Little snow and ice there, a couple inches in Denver. So as we go through the night, anywhere from Texas all the way up to Wisconsin here, we have the severe weather threat. And in this enhanced area, which is a level 3 out of 5 severe risk, you're looking at the greatest risk for tornadoes and maybe even large tornadoes. And that would include places like Joplin and Kansas City, and destructive winds and very large hail as well. We've already seen golf ball size hail. On Saturday, the threat is shifting east from Texas all the way up into parts of the northeast. There'll be 2 areas of severe weather that we'll be watching for: Buffalo, Pittsburgh to Charleston, wind and hail, and even a brief tornado as you look from Mississippi back down to Texas, anywhere from, let's say, Greenville down to about San Antonio. Even the I-95 corridor, Alex, on Saturday night, there could be a shower or thunder shower in the New York City area. Alex?
Lee Goldberg for us. Thank you. And thousands gathered in Chicago today for a final farewell to a civil rights icon, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Former Presidents Obama, Biden, and Clinton all paying tribute. President Obama praising Jackson and his life of service, saying he paved the road for so many others to follow. Our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas reports.
They came today 10,000 strong to help keep hope alive. Not for a funeral, but a black church-style homegoing service to celebrate the life and legacy of Jesse Jackson. Civil rights legend and major American political figure. There was the enraptured singing of joy. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. The man who was the bridge between Martin Luther King Jr. and Barack Obama, whose run for the presidency in the 1980s paved the way for the push for diversity in American politics.
He invited us to believe in our own power to change America for the better.
And Obama made clear that without Jesse Jackson, there would be no Obama presidency.
He paved the road for so many others to follow. He was talking about everyone who was left out, everyone who was forgotten, everyone who was unseen.
The man known as a country preacher honored today not just by Obama, but 2 other presidents, Bill Clinton.
I'm here more as a friend than a former president. He was my friend when I needed him.
And Joe Biden.
He changed history in ways numerous and profound.
And former Vice President Kamala Harris.
Well done, good and faithful servant. Well done. Thank you.
For those who remember Jackson, that clarion voice for justice will never be silenced. Alex?
Pierre, thank you. And tonight, we're learning more about a horrific killing spree in Utah. A suspect has allegedly confessed to killing 3 women in separate attacks. Prosecutors said that he wanted their cars and money to get home. ABC's Melissa Adon has more.
Authorities in Wayne County, Utah say 22-year-old Ivan Miller confessed to killing 3 women in cold blood in a case that's shaken a small community to its core. Police say Miller, who is from Iowa, was traveling through Utah when he hit an elk and totaled his truck. Days later, in need of money and a vehicle, he allegedly killed 86-year-old Margaret Oldroyd and stole her Buick Regal. Telling police he shot her in the back of the head while she was sitting down watching television. But police say after stealing the Buick, he did not like the car and wanted to find a different vehicle. So he parked at this remote trailhead where 65-year-old Linda Dewey and her niece, 34-year-old Natalie Graves, were going hiking. Police say he shot them, stole their Subaru Outback and credit cards, and took off. When their husbands became concerned, they went to the trailhead, found their bodies, and called police, who tracked Miller across 4 states.
Investigators utilized automated license plate readers and integrated vehicle tracking services to monitor the stolen vehicles' movements through southern Utah into northern Arizona and eventually into Colorado.
Miller was taken into custody in Colorado without incident. Police haven't said exactly why he did this other than he needed a car. He's expected in court for his arraignment in May. Alex?
Melissa Adon for us, thank you. Embattled Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez has ended his re-election bid in Texas. Gonzalez is mired in a scandal after repeated denials. He is now admitted to having an affair with a staffer who later took her own life. A growing number of House Republicans urged him to drop out of the race. He plans to serve out the rest of his term amid a House ethics investigation into the allegations against him. And the Department of Justice has released 3 previously withheld FBI interview reports in connection to the Epstein files. According to the DOJ, the documents are related to a woman who made uncorroborated allegations that she was abused by President Trump when she was a minor in the 1980s. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the accusations, quote, baseless and backed by zero credible evidence. Trump has denied any wrongdoing in his relationship with Epstein. He continues to deny any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. And coming up after the break, crackdown in London. A cell phone theft are at an all-time high in the city. We ride along with local police who tell us what to look out for. And speaking of cell phones, we have the dramatic video of a skier rescued after being buried in the snow, all thanks to a feature on his iPhone. But next, it is tax season, and we have the latest on the bigger than ever tax refunds by the numbers. Stay with us. Tax season is in full swing, and according to the latest figures from the IRS, tax refunds are bigger this year. That increase is in line with President Trump's claims that Americans would see larger refunds because of new tax provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So let's examine these tax refunds so far by the numbers. The latest IRS figures show that the average refund was just over $3,800. That's up more than 10% from the same time in 2025. The total amount refunded so far is $109 billion, nearly 7% higher than last year. E-filing returns from tax professionals went down nearly 3%, while self-prepared e-filings went up, with more than 23 million people opting for that. Now, while individual refunds are up double digits, the number of tax returns the IRS has received so far is actually down nearly 2% compared to the year prior. And the number of returns the agency has processed is also down more than 2%. The IRS said that it expects more than 164 million individual tax returns to be filed by the April 15th deadline. Well, if you haven't filed yet, we have just the person to help you with everything that you need to know. With us now is Caleb Silver. He's the chief business editor of People Inc. and also the editor-in-chief of Investopedia. Caleb, good to see you in person. And so, okay, right now we are a little more than a month out from that April 15th deadline. For folks that haven't started the process of filing, what should they do first?
Yeah, gather your documents, get it all together. This is the time to make sure you have your W-2s, your 1099s, your property taxes, your charitable contributions. Make sure you have all that gathered and make sure you've covered everything, including your bank interest and your investing gains and losses. If you're doing the taxes on your own or working with a professional, they're going to want to make sure you have all your documents in place. Get it all together at once.
Well, and so not everybody can afford a tax preparer. Are there some options that are low or no fee?
Yeah, especially for those with low income. So the IRS has a free file program. This is for folks who have an income of less than $89,000. You can file for free on the IRS website. There's also the VITICE programs. That's in-person assistance for low income, elderly, or the disabled, and also free tax services for the military. So there's a lot of options out there, and the free tax softwares that are out there allow you to get started. If your taxes become more complex, you'll pay a little bit of a fee there. But in general, it's become much easier and cheaper to file your taxes.
Well, and for those that want to go above and beyond, they want some extra homework here. Are there some things that you can do now to help make next year's filing season not as overwhelming?
Yeah, well, be aware of the tax changes. There were some big ones that applied to the 2025 taxes, including some higher deductions. There was the no taxes on tips and for seniors. Make sure you're aware of any tax changes. Adjust your withholdings for next year. If your income went up or went down, adjust your withholdings, contribute to your tax advantage accounts. That's your 401ks, your health savings accounts, your IRAs, and then track all your deductible expenses. A lot of gig workers out there, a lot of independent contractors, you're racking up a lot of expenses to run your business. Make sure you're keeping track of those and making sure that you take the deductions. And if you have to prepay any of your income taxes, if you're running a small business, make sure you're doing that on the quarterly so you don't get hit upside the head come tax season the following year.
Great advice. Great advice. We got a little bit more than a month to get it together. Caleb Silverforce, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. And coming up after the break, Patrick Reevell goes inside to look into London's crackdown on cell phone thefts. And alarming new research reveals Antarctica's massive ice loss. Stick around. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at some of the stories making headlines right now. President Trump is demanding Iran's unconditional surrender as the U.S. and Israel intensify attacks on Iran. Sources tell ABC News the U.S. believes that Russia has been providing Iran with the locations of American troops in the region, including aircraft and ships. Amid growing questions over whether the U.S. has enough missile interceptors to fend off a barrage of Iranian attacks, tonight President Trump met with the nation's top defense contractors, urging them to boost production. The president says he will have to approve Iran's next leader, but hasn't said exactly how that will happen. And fans booed at the opening ceremony for the Paralympics as 4 Russian athletes filed in behind the Russian flag. It's the first time in over a decade that athletes can compete under the flag following doping allegations. Ukraine and 6 other nations boycotted the opening ceremonies in protest. Iran's only athlete will not be able to participate due to travel challenges. And in Chicago, thousands were in attendance at the memorial service for Reverend Jesse Jackson. The 84-year-old civil rights icon was remembered by several prominent figures, including former Presidents Clinton, Obama, and Biden. Jackson was a protege of Martin Luther King Jr. and a 2-time presidential candidate. All right, coming up after the break, Antarctica is losing ice at a rapid rate, but how much has been lost over the last 3 decades? And hang on tight to those cell phones. London has become a hotspot for phone theft. And our Patrick Reevell takes a ride with local police and has the tips you need to know just after the break. London has become a hotspot for cell phone thefts, accounting for 70% of all thefts in the city. ABC's Patrick Reevell joins a local police patrol as they work to crack down.
It's early evening on the streets in central London, and we are out with undercover British police on the hunt for phone thieves.
So we're on patrol in a car with 2 police officers. It's an unmarked car that is taking part in an operation trying to crack down on phone snatchers.
So the area we are is the #1 hotspot in London.
It's right in the centre, close to Parliament.
Yeah.
It's high risk through pedestrians towards Trafalgar Square.
London has become the European capital for phone snatching. Thieves using electric motorbikes or scooters to swoop on unsuspecting victims. Around 100,000 phones are recorded stolen by police here each year, most then shipped overseas to Africa and China. After years of being accused of doing too little, now London's police say they are cracking down with new tactics and technologies, keen to show they take it seriously. We've been invited along to observe a 4-week operation intensively targeting the thieves. Suddenly, a call comes in.
So they just got a report of an e-bike going very fast. They think that it is a phone snatcher, so we are now headed there fast to try and get in pursuit. When they arrive in the area, the police start searching the side streets. Do you think they have a chance of finding him?
Yeah, I think so.
Another group of officers do eventually detain a suspect on a bike.
I think as a country, but definitely Metropolitan Police Service are quite slow to react to the trend of these electric motorbikes becoming prevalent in these phone snatching offences. And I think it probably took a couple of years to react, and we have done that now with our own electric motorbikes.
Police say these can turn the tide. Powerful electric dirt bikes modelled on those used by the thieves. They also now deploy drones to direct the officers down below. Officers are now authorised to also use tougher tactics when they catch up with the thieves, using so-called tactical contact, or in other words, knocking them off their bikes. They say they are also targeting the gangs sending the phones abroad. The devices can be easily resold or broken up for parts. About $26 million worth of phones are stolen each year, according to police. The police say their new tactics are having an effect. 10,000 fewer phones were reported stolen last year, about a 12% drop, though 70,000 were still snatched.
Last year we disrupted a gang that had exported, we think, about 40,000 phones to China. The phones are too easy to reuse, reset, and actually for quite a lot of money. It's multi-million-pound industry here.
London's left-wing mayor Sadiq Khan is at the police command post the day we visit. The capital's first Muslim mayor has faced attacks from President Trump and his allies recently, who falsely claim under him the city has become more dangerous.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed.
President Trump obviously has said some very negative things about you. He's called you disgusting, he's called you vicious, he's accused you of making London more dangerous. I mean, how do you reply to him?
I suspect one of the reasons why people like President Trump and Vice President Vance dislike London and say untruths about London is we're the antithesis of all they stand for. We are safer, not just in any city in America. We're safer when it comes to homicides than Paris, than Berlin.
London's homicide rate is at a record low, according to UK government statistics, but some petty crime like shoplifting has dramatically risen. Like the phone snatching, perhaps fueling a perception the city is less safe.
I think a lot of people who've had their phones stolen in London, I have friends who've had their phones stolen, will say that their experience when they've gone to the police is essentially the message is, there's nothing we can really do. Do you think you've been doing enough until now to try and tackle this issue?
I really think there is stuff we can do, and we absolutely take this really seriously. We also need the phone companies to work with us to also take it seriously. What we would like is if someone steals your phone, to make sure that nobody else could reactivate that phone and use it anywhere else in the world.
The phone companies have been reluctant so far. Apple told the UK Parliament last year it fears making it easier to block phones anywhere could lead to increased fraud. For now, each night the game of cat and mouse with the thieves goes on.
Our thanks to Patrick for that report. And coming up after the break, how an iPhone helped rescue a skier trapped in an avalanche. And McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, the burger wars between fast food giants is heating up. A skier rescued thanks to their iPhone. Burger wars heat up between two fast food giants. And is daylight savings bad for your health? Those stories and more in tonight's rundown. A skier who was rescued after being buried in snow for hours is lucky to be alive after his wife used Apple's Find My technology to help ski patrol locate him. Michael Harris was skiing in Washington when he said an avalanche turned his daydream into a nightmare. The 52-year-old avid skier says he ultimately found himself trapped in a snow hole several feet deep for more than 4 hours. His wife Penny noticed that his location wasn't moving on the Find My Friends app and drove 80 minutes to meet ski patrol at the mountain. He was found unconscious in the snow with a broken leg and was treated for hypothermia. Antarctica has lost enough ice over the last 30 years to cover the city of Los Angeles 10 times over, according to new research. Glaciologists at the University of California, Irvine use satellite images from the last 3 decades to measure the retreat of ice sheets over the Antarctic continent. The regions losing ice the fastest are West Antarctica, the Antarctica Peninsula, and parts of East Antarctica. Nearly 5,000 square miles of grounded ice have also been lost since 1996, according to researchers. Get ready to spring forward this weekend. The annual practice of adjusting clocks forward by 1 hour to take advantage of more sunlight and daylight hours means that sunsets will happen later in the day. Most states, the District of Columbia and the Navajo Nation, observe daylight saving time. Arizona, Hawaii, and U.S. territories do not. Because daylight saving time often translates to less sleep for a brief period, the annual change can impact a person's health. So to minimize the effects of daylight saving time on one's health, experts recommend modifying your bedtime 15 to 20 minutes earlier than usual. An investigation is underway after an attack on San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie's security team that left one bodyguard with head injuries. The mayor was not hurt in the attack, and 2 suspects were arrested, one of whom had previous run-ins with the law. The officers, who had non-life-threatening injuries, requested backup. No other people were injured, and it's not clear yet what the mayor was doing at the location at the time of the incident, since he had no public events at that time. It all started innocently enough with the CEO of McDonald's testing out the company's new offering, the Big Arch Burger. The video was seen by millions and quickly gained traction on social media. Soon enough, attention-hungry CEOs of other fast food chains saw an opportunity to cash in on the newfound celebrity of executive taste testing their products on camera, including the CEOs of rival chain Burger King and Wendy's. And Harry Styles has released his 4th studio album titled Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally. The former One Direction bandmate released the LP along with a carousel of photos on Instagram from the process of recording and producing the album. The highly anticipated release is so far well received, with unexpected dance and disco-inspired hits right in time for the summer. A few years ago, Andre Ricciardi walked into a doctor's office to get a colonoscopy after initially putting it off, only to find out that he was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 colon cancer. So Andre decided to document his battle with the disease, and the goal was to encourage others to get colonoscopies, but it was done by flipping the deadly disease on its head and into this irreverent and comedic journey. Take a look.
I'm afraid for the people that I'm leaving behind.
It is beautiful, funny, and it's also very sad that you have cancer, Andre.
Joining us now is the film's director, Tony Benna, and Andre's best friend and the film's executive producer, Lee Einhorn. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
First, we got to get to the name of this film. Andre is an idiot. How'd you come up with that?
Well, actually, his mother, when he was first diagnosed, the first thing she said was, "What an idiot." She said, "It's the easiest cancer to prevent. All you got to do is get a colonoscopy. What an idiot." She actually said, "What a effing idiot." We can't say that on the news, but that's how the title came about.
That's how.
Yeah. And I think Andre agreed. You know, I think he saw it right away as an ad man that would be a pretty good handle for this. You know, to not just treat the movie as an entertaining piece, but also as a PSA to kind of remind people not to be an idiot.
Yeah. Were you surprised that he wanted to do a film about this?
Yeah, of course. But, you know, Andre being Andre, you never knew what was going to come out of his creative mind. So, you know, when he called and said, I've got a really fun project, I thought it could have been anything. But when he said, I've got stage 4 cancer and I want to make a comedy, of course I was shocked. But at first I thought he was joking. He said he was serious. And I thought, you know, cancer's not funny, but Andre's one of the most hilarious people that I've ever met. And most brilliant, really.
Yeah. Well, and it is a really creative project because you're documenting his journey, but there's also these stop motion elements to it as well. Like
I brought Andre here to the show just to show you the stop motion puppet of Andre. A lot of the scenes that we couldn't shoot with Andre because they were too wild and crazy, we'd use the puppet. because Andre's mind was all over the place. So if he was talking about 10 ways to dispose of his body, of course the puppet made that digestible and funny.
Well, and Lee, you mentioned in the film that Andre didn't want to treat your friendship any different through this process. What conversations did you guys have about that?
I mean, Andre and I's relationship was based in humor, for sure. We worked together for 20 years, writing funny TV commercials and activations and things like that. And I think we agreed from the beginning that we need to keep our humor through this, because humor was what was going to help him get through what he was going through.
Yeah, well, and also having those serious discussions through humor, sometimes it makes it a little bit more digestible too, right?
Sure.
Something else that stood out to me. So the film has a cameo from a Hollywood actor icon and also a cancer survivor. You got Tommy Chong.
Mm-hmm.
How did that booking come about?
Well, we had tried to get Andre's father, who's a very private man, didn't want to be in the film. We tried to get him to be part of the movie. His mom, unfortunately, had gotten ill, so she wasn't available. And we tried and tried. His dad wouldn't do it. So we said to Andre, what do you want to do about this? And he said, well, let's just get somebody to play my father. Now, his first choice was Obama, but then he felt like Obama was maybe too old or too young to be his father. And then he said, well, my dad really looks like Tommy Chong. Why don't we just get Tommy Chong to play my father?
I know that, with something happening to a friend that's so dear to you, you're probably on your own emotional roller coaster, but was it tough to finalize the film after his passing?
Yeah, the edit was probably the hardest part, because we had so much great footage too. We did 3.5 years of filming, so we had so many great Andre adventures and Andre stories. So it was hard to cut out some of these great moments. I was kind of grieving during the edit process as well.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make sure that we stayed true to the movie that Andre wanted to make. With him being gone, we held firm on knowing what he wanted this film to be.
Yeah, we really wanted it to be an authentic portrait of who he was.
Tony, Lee, hey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And Andre is an Idiot is out now in select theaters. And that's our show for this hour. I'm Alex Perche. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for streaming with us.